UFP, the United Federation of Podcasts.
To all who listen to this happy podcast, this is Mickey's Marvels on the United Federation of Podcasts. You can contact the network at contact@ufp.earth, on Twitter at UFPEarth, and on Facebook. I am your host, Magic. Join with me for a second special time is my son, Mini Magic. Mini, how are you?
I am great.
Awesome. So, do you want to tell the listeners what we're going to be talking about here today?
Yes, we are talking about the movie Bolt today.
And why did we pick that movie?
Because it was one of my favorite dog movies, and I really like dogs, so I picked that.
Okay, great. So just a little back history on the movie. It has a few really big names as voices. John Travolta is Bolt. Miley Ray Cyrus is Penny. We also have Susie Essman is Mittens. Mark Walton is Rhino. Malcolm McDowell plays Dr. Calico. And if you thought you noticed the voice from one of my fandoms, wrestling, one of the thugs, or the guy named Thug, is actually Macho Man Randy Savage. So that's pretty cool. Bolt was actually released on November 21st, 2008. So it's going back a little bit. It is directed by Chris Williams and Byron Howard. Produced by Clark Spencer. Screenplay was Dan Fogman and Chris Williams. The music is John Powell. It's a Walt Disney Pictures and Walt Disney Animated Studios production. Distributed by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures. The runtime is 96 minutes. Its budget was $150 million, and its box office was $310 million. So I would say that's a big success, huh?
Yeah, I would say too. A big success.
Yeah, doubling your money is always a good thing. So, Michael, why don't you tell the listener real quick what the movie is about?
The movie's mostly about the dogs trying to protect Penny.
Okay, and what do we see happen in the movie? Like, does he believe? What does Bolt believe?
Bolt believes that everything is real, and the Green-Eyed Man is trying to take Penny.
Okay, and what happens in the movie that he thinks is real?
He thinks, like, the Superbark's real, and
that he has superpowers.
Yeah.
So why does he have to save Penny? What ends up happening? We see in the beginning that he's a puppy, right?
Yeah.
And then he gets adopted by Penny, who then goes on to be an actress with him as her pup. But they make the puppy, or Bolt, believe he's actually superpowered. He doesn't know he's acting like everyone else does. And so it's very similar to a movie you haven't seen, actually, buddy, but The Truman Show. Because in The Truman Show, Truman thought he was actually just living his life when they were really filming it the whole time without letting him know they were filming it. And that's basically what they're doing with Bolt, and they're leaving him locked up in his trailer all the time. So at some point, well, you tell him, what happens? What happens that causes Bolt to realize he's not real?
The cat Mittens was telling him all about how he's not real once she saw the label, or like the collar, and she saw Hollywood, and then Rhino was already met the hamster, and so he said that moving pictures. So Mittens thought like moving pictures like a TV show. So she told Bolt that he was part of a TV show. And then Bolt didn't believe it. But later on in the movie, he starts to realize it. Because he tries to open up a lock, trying to bust it open, but that didn't work. So then he realized he didn't have superpowers.
Okay, right. So during one scene, the TV network wants there to be something unhappy happen. So at the end of the episode, instead of Bolt saving Penny, Penny gets actually kidnapped, and they throw Bolt in his trailer without his knowledge of Penny being okay. Because they want the actual reaction from Bolt. So now Bolt escapes, and they're in New York for this, So they run into a bunch of pigeons at one point, and those pigeons are like little mafia guys, which is pretty funny because all the pigeons kind of like are like something from the area that they are living in at the time, because we see a couple sets of pigeons. But the pigeons help him get his head out, and he starts to think something is stopping his powers, right?
Yeah, he thinks the styrofoam is stopping his powers.
Yeah, so styrofoam would be like his kryptonite.
Yeah, basically.
So what'd you think about that?
I thought it was really creative of them to think that, because the moment the styrofoam was there in the box, he thought that was his weakness.
Right, so they gave him a reason to continue to believe that he actually does have superpowers, and it's just something is hurting him. Which was cool because he gets to keep that thought alive for most of the movie. He things keep happening that kind of seem like it's still the movie, the TV show.
Yeah.
So he after this he ends up traveling across country, right? And but he meets Mittens. They find a park, and she teaches him how to do the dog face.
Yeah, the dog face.
So what'd you think of that scene?
That scene was also good because I remember this one thing. I think she goes, "This is the one dog that doesn't know how to beg."
Right. And what were they begging for?
They were begging for the antidote, which was really food, because Bolt was hungry.
Right. And what did Bolt think his hunger was?
He thought that when he was hungry, he thought that he was being poisoned.
By who?
By the cat.
Right, Mittens. He also thinks Mittens is involved, right? Because Dr. Calico has cats.
Yeah, he has one black cat and one white cat.
Yeah, and so he's trying to get Mittens to take him to Dr. Calico, the green-eyed man, as he calls him.
Yeah, but how does he know that he's green? That he has a green eye? Dogs are colorblind.
Yeah, that is a little weird, right?
Yeah.
What's one of the funny parts is when they do run into the birds in New York, the one bird keeps saying he knows them, but he can't remember where. And what's going on in the background while all this is happening?
So, like, right after they get unstuck, he says that, and then, well, he's saying, "I know this dog. I know him." And in the background, there's two buses going by. One bus came first, which literally had him all over it. And then the second one was showing, like, it has as advertisement with Bolt too. And then the third time he says it, he's on a billboard in New York City. And he's like, "I'm saying, guys, I know this dog. I know this dog. You guys look at me like I don't know this dog. I know this dog."
And what's the billboard he's standing on?
Bolt. They're standing on Bolt's nose.
So at no point do they look and see any of the advertisements.
Nope.
They just keep saying, "I know him, I know him."
I know him. I know this dog. I know him.
Yep. So now Bolt and Mittens are arguing because Mittens wants to stay and Bolt wants to go look for her. But why is Mittens so against looking for Penny? Do you know why?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Because Mittens once had a person too, and that person up and left Mittens, and that's how she became an alley cat. So she believes all people are bad, that they'll all forget you at some point.
Yeah, I guess that is the reason. I just want to say another fun part that Mittens did. At one point in the movie, like in the early, like Mittens is an alley cat, and like she has a lot of birds, and they would give her food for a week, and then she would give them protection. So when that happened, one of the birds didn't have that much, so he came up to him, and he said, "This is all I have." It was a short week, and then she was acting like she was trying to keep her claws back, but then she says that that their contract just expired. Their deal just expired, basically. So then the next week he would have to give all the food to her.
Right. So she's basically acting like a mafia protection ring.
Yep.
Where the payments are food. And she's
Yeah.
really just protecting the birds from her own claws.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting little lesson, right? That treating people badly is not the right thing to do.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. Okay. So once we get to the dog, the dog face with him begging, we see they end up. That's where they meet Rhino, which is a hamster that is absolutely in love with Bolt.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts of Rhino?
He was pretty good. With Rhino because he would always be next to Bolt, and he would be like. He also had the idea of trying to get on a CSX train to get them to the Green Eyed Man or Hollywood, and yeah, I think he was a good character in the movie to include.
I would agree, and I think he's a good friend of Bolt's too. By the end.
Yeah, I agree. Since you brought up the end, I just want to say something from the end. I love how at the end they're all in a family, and Mittens isn't wrong about Bolt, Penny, and because at first she thought like that she's just an actor and that she doesn't really love Bolt, but at the end we can prove that she really does. And when Bolt does the super bark.
Yes, that was a good scene. We'll get to that. So you brought up the CSX train. First off, how do you know that's a CSX train?
It said it on the locomotive, and plus I know my trains very well.
Because you love your trains, right?
I love my trains.
All right. So they're going to do a jump where they grab onto a banner and they swing down. And at this point, Rhino still believes the TV is real. It's not a TV show. It's Mittens at this point that realizes they're talking about a TV show, that none of it's real.
Yep. So the way she knew that is that Rhino called the TV a magical box with pictures. And then he said that Bolt's pictures are the best. And then she realized it was a TV show. And I want to say something about the train part. When there was the train part, they were at the end because that's when they got on to the train. And so the ladder that would let you get up on the top of the train fell down and Mittens was stuck on it. So then Mittens runs up. Bolt's still down there. So then the bolt gets rusty and starts to come off. So then Mittens is trying to help Bolt, but Rhino's really kind of making it worse. He's trying to make sure that she doesn't do that. But he didn't realize it. So he should have paid more attention to the thing.
Okay. Yeah, so sometimes helping isn't always the best option. If you don't really know what you're doing, is what you're trying to say? Okay.
Yeah.
So what I find interesting is through all of this, things keep happening so that Bolt can continue to believe that he's really still a superhero. And whenever he's failed, it's been because of, this styrofoam and not because he doesn't have superpowers.
Yeah, basically.
And like in that train scene, he does the swing and they almost get killed a few times by the train, but miraculously they don't and eventually end up back on the train. And they end up going to the pound, and the dog catcher catches Bolt, catches the Mittens, and when they do that, Bolt is trying to bang his way out, and Mittens keeps trying to tell him, you don't have superpowers, it's a TV show. You don't have superpowers, it's a TV show. He doesn't believe it. He finally bursts his way out, thinks he's won something, like his powers are back, and it turned out what happened.
That Rhino was actually following them because one